women are oppressed currently in this world, right?
Oh, explain.
Right? Less so.
I'd love to know how.
What do you mean?
Any
they can't
example?
drive. They can't go out without.
They can't drive?
In certain countries, absolutely, women are oppressed. Are you literally denying that women are not oppressed in this world?
Just because it was a wrong before that for men doesn't mean that it still was unequal.
So do you think that we would have the welfare state without female voters? Do you think the welfare state is a good thing?
We are about to have some fun here today, guys. I absolutely guarantee it. Now, I want to say like 3 or 4 times over the last couple of months, I've done content on Andrew Wilson, typically on the Whatever podcast, doing a debate, a live public debate with some feminists or just some crazy people, and he absolutely owns them. He scorches them alive. Well, apparently, his wife schools feminists just as much, if not more than him. All right, so his wife, Rachel Wilson, just went on a debate live show. So we're going to take a look at it here today and get after it, all right? So let's have some fun. Without further ado.
Okay, the first topic is feminism was not a reaction to oppression. Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I guess a natural first question is what you think it arose from.
So the story most everyone's heard is that the reason feminism came about is because the evil patriarchy was oppressing the women, and they looked around one day and they went, oh no, we're being oppressed. We have to march and, protest until we're equal. That's really not how it happened at all. It was more of an astroturfed social engineering project by radical revolutionaries and wealthy industrialists.
So I'm just going to be honest. I don't know enough about the history of feminism to say whether you're right or wrong. So I guess I kind of would rather just get to the meat of what I'm assuming you're saying,
Sure.
which is that feminism is inherently wrong, right? Because it wasn't founded by oppressed women. It was founded by some other, corrupt industry.
That, and people just have this assumption because of over 100 years of propaganda that women were historically oppressed, when I don't think that's accurate at all. I don't think there's any real evidence that women were oppressed compared to men, for instance.
So what about parts of our history where there were just objectively unequal rights, like voting, for instance?
So in the West, most men only gained the right to suffrage maybe a decade or so before women did. So people assume that as soon as we had, various forms of democracy, either in America or England, that all men could vote. That's not the case. It was a very small group of men. There were a lot of caveats. It depends on the time and place, but you had to either be a landowner, you had to have certain other various requirements. Right. Sometimes you had to pay a poll tax in order to be able to vote. So in England, for example, men only gained universal suffrage about a decade before women did.
But it's good that we made that progress, right?
I don't think so, but that's a separate prompt.
Okay, fair enough.
To the audience out there, tell me, what does make more sense to you? Step 1, identify that there is an inherent problem in the way that society is right now, withholding you from being the richest or a group of the richest type of people. Step 2, identify other people that are rich too that have this problem that want to change something. Step 3, identify the solution. Make 50% of the population work. Put them in the industry to increase products, to increase our GDP. Step 3, there was a problem. How do you get the lion's share of these people to get out of their roles within the household, to participate within the workforce, convince them or levy propaganda onto them to make them feel as though that they are oppressed within society? Final step, sit back with your pina colada and your shades on as you watch all of them fight about it down below and wait for the inevitable profits to roll in. I think that is a lot more likely to believe that there are puppet masters constructing this on high for their own benefit.
Yeah, I don't really know where to go from there then, because again, regardless of the circumstances by which feminism arose, is kind of indifferent to me. This is kind of similar to conversations like I had earlier, as far as like religion, for example, in society, right? It's more about the effects of it. And so regardless of the circumstances of how feminism arose, I think that the effects of it are probably advantageous.
What is more advantageous about a more promiscuous society where women are empowered to utilize their sexuality on platforms such as OF, turning them into self-proclaimed independent earners and shit like that? Meanwhile, the same women shame men that have the courage to call the shit out for what it is. I'm all for female empowerment. Be empowered to do whatever it is that you want to do, but But at what point do we draw the line? A shining example of this is, you guys remember little Tay from all of them years ago? The Asian little girl that would talk in a ratchet accent. Well, she's grown up, just turned 18, and now has made $1 million in a couple of hours up on OF. Here goes a screenshot of her actual earnings with 330,000 likes so far. Her social media posts have been explicit in tone, emphasizing her financial gains and independence. You go, queen. Feminism supports this behavior.
The effects are deeply disadvantageous to both men and women. And I think women, if your concern is for women, we were better off prior to our liberation from the evil patriarchy. If you look at every metric that we have to assess women's happiness and well-being in modern times, it's lower than it was prior to when they started tracking this around the 1960s.
So I think there's a problem with the data tracking there, right? I don't know this figures specifically, but I mean, you know, we have a lot less horses in our military than we also did back in like the 1800s, right? So sure. I think that...
Well, let me ask you, what do you think it did for women? Why do you think, or for anyone, what do you think the advantages are? Why was it good?
She's good.
Well, I think specifically just giving equal footing and opportunity to women, which I don't think is even entirely fulfilled at this point. But I'm sure that I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the traditional, you know, female role.
What opportunities did they not have?
Well, voting for one. But, you know, even in the workplace,
men
right?
couldn't vote either for the most part.
Yeah, and we fixed it, right? So I think that this is, you know, just because it was a wrong before that for men doesn't mean that it still was unequal.
So do you think that we would have the welfare state without female voters? Ooh. Do you think the welfare state is a good thing?
Ooh. I don't understand the question. I apologize.
So would we have massive entitlement spending? Would we have food stamps? Would we have open borders and all these perks for immigrants coming in where they're getting free housing and healthcare and food if it weren't for female voters?
I think you still would. I don't think female voters necessarily have to sway those things, but I also...
The data says that overwhelmingly they are the most reliable voting bloc for all types of entitlements, especially open borders and immigration.
If you go back, though, historically, right, and again, I didn't know the topic, so I don't have any literature to like literally support this, but women had a lot of influence in the House, even when they couldn't vote, right?
Exactly.
So, but we gave the ability to women to express their own independent votes. They are a vote. And so if, let's just say you're right, that women are a major proponent for, you know, policies we see in immigration, who cares? They're still a part of our populace. They get to have a say on this.
If you're a woman and you're living in New York City or other places where there's tons of illegal immigration and you're now being subjected to disproportional amounts of violence that you weren't subjected to before.
That's not true.
Okay.
No.
Go ahead and substantiate that.
Yeah, so immigrants, illegal immigrants specifically, if you obviously remove the illegal part of the immigration, literally just commit crimes at lower rates than national.
So you think
citizens.
that all the Mexican gangs?
All right. Thank you.
Sure. That was good. And shout out to that brother, too. I thought that he did a very good job of representing himself.
Well, surprise, surprise.
I love to
agree
see them talk
with Wilson.
Rachel, if feminism wasn't a response to oppression, why the hell does feminism exist?
I'll tell you why. There was a small group of radical revolutionaries who felt that the current system prior to this that we had through all of history was inherently oppressive to women because they felt that women and men were equal, that they're basically the same, they just have different reproductive organs, right? And that's really the only difference. They should be, anything a man could do, a woman should be doing. This is a very arbitrary stance to take, and if you look historically at what rights men and women had, I think you could argue men were more oppressed than women prior even to feminism.
Seriously?
Yes, 100%.
Men were, in what way? How were men more oppressed than women?
Well, women haven't ever been conscripted to go fight and die in wars, and especially prior to feminism, that was a really brutal thing. About 80% of men historically have ended up it's 60% of men historically have never been able to reproduce. They've never had the opportunity, whether it's because they died young as cannon fodder, couldn't get a wife, weren't selected to be married. Women, all you have to do is be fertile. and you're going to have progeny. You're never going to be sent to the front lines in a war that you don't want to fight in. They don't have to work in coal mines. They don't have to do the dirty, dangerous jobs that men have to do.
Women are very privileged. What does that have to do with feminism and how it came about?
You can't claim that women are oppressed and also claim that they're privileged.
Definitely were oppressed.
How could they be privileged and be oppressed?
Same damn time. And much of what she's describing is a fact of today, not so much the military portion, but the majority of difficult work and jobs that can kill you to keep the world functioning are provided by men. And today, there is no barriers for stopping women taking these jobs. I mean, even for some of their requirements, they will lower the standards just for a woman. They simply choose not to because it's a dirty job, it's a hard job, and dangerous job. But men still step up and take these jobs, and it's not because that they're easy, but because they want to provide for their families and for a better future. It's equality in the boardroom. It's not equality in the coal mine.
Do you disagree that women were never oppressed?
Yes,
Do you agree?
I agree.
You agree? Wait, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that women have never been oppressed?
Yes. I believe that women were never.
Seriously?
Yes, as a
How
whole
could you
group.
possibly
Who oppressed them?
that?
Who oppressed them? Listen,
half the
I saw your
men.
thing with Andrew, and you love to do this thing where you're like, but my presupposition, like you've never examined why you believe that. No. Why do you believe women were oppressed? You tell me why you believe that.
This is literally a historical fact.
It's not a historical fact.
Not having the right to vote. Women are oppressed currently in this world. Right?
Oh, explain.
Right? Less so.
I'd love to know how.
What do you mean?
Any
they can't
example?
drive. They can't go out without.
They can't drive?
In certain countries, absolutely, women are oppressed. Are you
Where?
literally denying that women are not oppressed in this world? In certain
we're talking
obviously
about
in America, right?
America,
I'm an American,
right?
America,
women have equal rights, and I think this is a great society. But to suggest that women have not been oppressed in the past,
Where
in this country,
where in the West? Yeah, in this country.
In the past, in this country, and throughout the world currently, to suggest that they're not oppressed is absurd.
Show me an example of American women. That's not an argument. Show me an example of American women ever being oppressed comparatively to men.
There's a time in this country where women can't vote.
There was time in this country where men couldn't vote.
So
the majority of men could not vote.
That is not a retort. That is just saying, well, that's true. You basically just said that's true, but. So you basically agree with me.
I asked you. How were men oppressing women if those men themselves didn't have the right to vote either? So men with no voting rights oppressed women with no voting rights?
No. You asked me to give you an example of when women were oppressed, and I did. And then
by whom?
Your response was just that, yeah, men were oppressed too.
Yeah. So how could feminism be a reaction to oppression by men?
How is it not?
Because they weren't oppressed. Men were actually, women have always been privileged compared to men. Always.
Women?
Throughout all of history, yes.
No.
Yes.
Come on.
What do you mean, come on?
Yo, he's getting absolutely cooked here. You cannot be responding in a debate with a no, come on. No, they've been oppressed. This is a known fact. Like, you actually have to retort and say things to your position. I mean, she called him out earlier after he said that there's privileges that women have. So how can they be oppressed and have privileges at the same time? Those things should not exist. One should not exist where the other exists if you're going to claim one or the other. Now, where I will not agree with her on is to say that women were never oppressed. And the reason for that is to say if men were also oppressed at the same time. I think both can occur. You can have certain groups of women that were oppressed and certain groups of men that were oppressed at the same time. But I agree with the title of the video that it wasn't a reaction to oppression, rather a reaction to inequality. Some of that inequality from certain women, but really it was initiated and supported by the puppeteers that wanted to further industrialize our society. But for any of these Western women that think that they are still oppressed, actively oppressed within society today, and trust me, there's still a lot of them out there. Just go to any discussion group and have majority liberal thinking women, and they will speak as if they are actively being oppressed by some patriarchy. I would love these women to just travel so that they can understand the privileges that they receive here. You drop them in some of these countries and they'll be begging to come back rather than constantly complaining about the way that they have it here. Shout out to Brittany Griner.
Like I said, women don't have to. Women have never had to die in battle.
Go live in the Middle East and tell me that same thing. That's insane.
That you could argue that they're even privileged there comparatively to the men.
Stop. You don't believe that.
I do believe that. Absolutely. Where in the Middle East, and what are you talking about? Are you talking about the Taliban? Are you talking about Saudi Arabia? Saudi Arabia has become very progressive, and women there can work and they can drive.
Go to Afghanistan and tell me women are privileged.
Well, how are they not?
Stop it. This is a rhetorical question. She's asking the same question.
Who are you appealing to here?
So
if let's just grant you that the Taliban is an oppressive regime.
Literally grant me that they're an oppressive regime? Seriously?
Well, you would have to take into account all the ways that men are also oppressed under the Taliban regime, which you could argue is much worse.
But that's not the point.
They are sent to fight and blow themselves up and die for things that they probably don't want to if they had the choice.
What about it?
But let's stick to America, because the topic was, it's more here. So in the United States, women have never been oppressed. You know that women have always had higher rates of literacy. Okay.
Oh, she's about to go in. All right, guys, I'm going to stop the content right here. I'll leave a link to this full video down in the description box down below. I only went over 2 of the different conversations that I thought had the most highlights. You know what I mean? But if you want to go listen to more, again, link to it down below. See the other content that's up on their channel. But what this mini debate taught me, and specifically from this conversation, is that to be a strong debater, and I have never said that I'm a strong debater, by the way, but in order to be one, not only do you need to ask yourself why it is that you believe something, but you need to also ask yourself, why is it that you do not believe something? And that's done in an effort to understand your opposition's points. I think that the points that Rachel are bringing up are super strong within the West, but if you start to go to other countries, especially within the Middle East, then some of his points make a lot more sense, but he is unable to speak to the nuances of his points abroad because he hasn't really considered it, which means to me that he's been conditioned to believe something and just expects everybody to just accept it as fact. Just accept that the Taliban are less oppressed than the women. In theory, it should be easy to talk through that, but in practice, we didn't see it happen here. Nevertheless, shout out to Rachel Wilson, absolutely murked it up there. And I just want to end off my comments and just saying this is that right now, modern day society today in the West, we live in one of the most privileged societies that's ever existed in human history for both men as well as women. Yet somehow or a certain subset of us have turned this realized comfort, this realized access, this realized health and wealth into complaining and victimizing yourself. Some of the most privileged people acting like you are the most oppressed. It's wild to me. And I think this is why so many people today are so tired of this perpetual victimhood cycle where the currency is virality through outrage, and because someone wasn't sensitive to your group or like what you stand for. And the standard of operation is your little damn feelings. I think that it's odd today when we have so many different technological advancements. So many people are still led not by logic, but by feelings, all right? One of the most damaging questions that you can ever ask anybody is why? Why is it that you believe something? And if they cannot fully articulate why it is that that is their point as well as their position, then they never really had a point to begin with. It was manufactured, given to them by some puppeteer. All right, guys, that's been your content for today. Questions, comments, concerns, leave it down in the comment box down below. Let me know what you guys thought about this particular topic. Do you agree that feminism wasn't a reaction to oppression? Do you disagree? Let me know. Light it down up in the comment box down below. Last but not least, I'll see you guys soon. Until next time, you two. Peace.